Tech Showcase. I hope you enjoyed Lenny's opening session just to give us a brief overview of what today's going to be about. With me here, I have Michael, but before I hand it on over to him, I just want to go over a few things. First, we've got that chat box. Drop your LinkedIn, let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to connect. And next, we have that Q&A box. If you have any questions for our speakers, make sure to drop them there, and we'll get to them at the end of each session. So now I will hand it on over to you, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I imagine everybody can see my screen, so we're good to go. So thank you so much. My name is Michael Howard. I'm the CEO and founder of Nichefire. We are a predictive cultural intelligence platform for social intelligence teams. And so we help companies identify and predict the impact of emerging consumer, political, economic, societal trends, help you understand how they impact your brand, how they impact your consumers. And we do this by tapping into data from all over the web. So we look at search, news, web traffic, social media, you name it. We pull it in. We help you understand the pulse of the world more effectively with the way that we're pulling in and helping you evaluate that information. But let's talk about trends for a moment, though. Why are they important? How do we look at them? Hey, Bridget, I just got a note that there is no audio. Can you confirm that you can hear me? You can hear me? Okay. I'm going to keep going. So like I said, let's talk about trends for a moment, though. Why are they important? How do we look at them? And those that are in consumer insights and social intelligence, I mean, we leverage trends to pick up on opportunities that could be beneficial, and also to helping understand what sort of risks that we that need attention, where we can jump on. So I'm going to show you a diagram that I love to use because it helps us understand the differentiation and solutions we need, but also the differentiation insights we need. So let's start with this top part here called topic. So these are the types of trends and insights that we can pick up on our own assets. So, what are people saying about our competitor, or not our competitors, but what are people saying about our brands? How do they feel about our products? How do they feel about us, and that sort of thing? And we can expand this out a little bit into this next section of category. What are people saying about our competitors? How do they feel about them, their products? What are people saying about our market? And social listening tools, as they are today, do a fantastic job covering these two areas. That's because it's you can plug in keywords that you know ahead of time. You can look at the data that comes back from that. But there's this third layer that we call culture. And that becomes a bit more tricky because the way we're defining culture here are the common interests, common behaviors, common beliefs that communities online share. And these are external forces that change very rapidly. So they're very difficult to capture with your standard social listening practices because you have to have this initial understanding of what to search for first. And so to paint a better picture, I'm going to introduce you to somebody. This is Anna. Anna is the Director of Consumer Insights for a Fortune 500 consumer packaged good company. And so she has stakeholders from many, many, many departments, and one of her jobs is to deliver those types of cultural insights to them. And so her team currently uses a variety of different social listening tools to do this. So anywhere from your brand watches to talk walkers to sprinklers, you name it. That these tools though are more reactive. And so Anna's team doesn't know what they don't know, and her stakeholders need to know the impact of decisions before they make them. So it's kind of near impossible to discover and predict new trends that are going to impact you this way, because with these kinds of tools, you kind of have to know what to look for first. And so we're seeing teams spend 60, 80, 100 plus hours a month trying to do this kind of work. And oftentimes too, I mean, sometimes these teams will go and contract a consulting firm to help build something in-house. And so we see teams from like IBM or Kantar or McKinsey, they'll build something custom. But these projects get really expensive. I mean, we've seen bids anywhere from $1 to $4 million, and sometimes these projects can have data forecasting methods, or even could be that kind of black box where Anna's team doesn't have the kind of transparency and capabilities that they want to be able to navigate with it. So our question though, why are these stakeholders willing to spend so much time, so much money to understand these types of trends anyway? And it's because the value is enormous. So if let's take Anna, for instance. I mean, her ability to predict and understand emerging consumer patterns relating to, say she sells coffee or something like that. So the latest trends in coffee, I mean, that could mean the next $100+ million product line for her brand. Or say you have somebody like Data Danielle, who's in retail. I mean, she needs a good understanding of the consumer spending patterns and emerging trends to understand, pricing and promotional strategies at her stores. Or you have somebody like Insights Ian, who needs a good grasp on the economic and political environment to more or less understand how consumers' financial situations will affect their products, affect their reputation. And so we're helping some pretty big brands. Some of our customers include like Walmart, Kraft Heinz, Nestle. And we help them kind of predict the future of these types of trends better than the rest. So I want to start off with some examples here. So let's start with this idea of like uncovering opportunities using cultural intelligence. So when I say opportunities, I'm referring to what kind of marketing, what kind of innovation, what kind of brand activation opportunities that could drive some sort of top line value. And so what we're doing is we're picking up signals from areas where you can find passion and interests that come from cultural communities. And a fantastic example of a company that is embracing cultural intelligence and foresight is Kraft Heinz. We're proud to call them one of our customers, and I like this example because it's really great proof of how understanding culture can lead to opportunities. So I'm sure you're all familiar with anime. It's a very prominent type of media with a lot of growing audiences. So millennials, Gen Z, even the incoming Gen Alpha really love anime. But this is the product of Japanese culture being introduced into American culture. And so Kraft Heinz saw this as an opportunity, and with the impression that anime has on these audiences, we can ask questions like, what tie does this have to other aspects of Japanese culture? And does food play a role? The short answer is yes. And so in anime, there's a lot of dedicated communities to understanding different recipes for food, for what sort of food is featured in different animes and that sort of thing like that. And so from this, a company like a Kraft Heinz can look at this and pick up on food innovation opportunities. For instance, like takoyaki was an example of one. So takoyaki is fried octopus balls, but its sauce is Worcestershire and ketchup based. Kraft Heinz makes that really well, and so a brand like Kraft Heinz, can take that kind of insight. They can go and test it, and potentially they can bring something to market like that. And so, from that, you could have a 10, $100+ million product line out there through this kind of work. But then there's this other end of cultural intelligence that can help with things like reputation. So specifically, like what areas can our brand, deliver value, or where should we be defending our brand? We've been working with a major retailer on a framework for this using our platform. We call this smoke versus fire. And the objective of this solution is that we must have a way to prioritize narratives about the brand based on their risk factors. So which ones can be monitored? We call that smoke. Which ones need immediate attention? We call it fire. And so this framework has the potential to help companies like those in retail or even in finance, other industries too, to prioritize top issues pertaining to the brand. And so a good example, so the store that we worked with, they were having store closures from a variety of cities, anywhere from Portland to Chicago, and that sort of thing. And one of the things that we were able to pick up on and forecast for them were divisive political narratives around that, such as like, hey, this store leaving the city is going to lead to, massive unemployment, lead to food deserts, and that sort of thing. And then you have on the other side, more conservative right-leaning conversations talking about, hey, this store leaving these areas is indicative of how poorly run these cities are, as massive crime, massive theft that's causing retailers to leave. And the kind of conversation we want to focus on was that right-leaning conversation, because needless to say, the reason why that retailer had left some of those areas in those cities is because they just, quite frankly, weren't ever profitable in that. Albeit retail theft is on the up and up, but that wasn't the reason they left. And so, this retailer wanted to make sure that people felt safe and knew that they were safe when they were shopping at their stores. And so they wanted to address that. And so they were able to build, their own public outreach, be able to address local communities, potentially save millions of dollars worth of losses as a result by understanding the cultural narrative associated with their reputation. So as a result, new companies have the ability to pivot and prioritize their resources effectively with this kind of framework. So we can see why cultural intelligence is incredibly important for us. That's why we built our platform. It's a self-service platform that helps consumer insights professionals turn those unknown unknowns into an actual insight. Again, because we don't know what we don't know. But we built out this patented data cross-referencing system that automatically identifies and presents emerging trends without having to build queries. We do this across numerous online sources as well. So we're not just looking at social data. We look at news, we look at search, we look at web traffic, and we marry those, integrate those together to build out this really robust view of the voice of the consumer. We're also here to help predict the impact of those trends before they happen. So our prediction evaluation system rapidly brings in new trends and updates on any topic you're interested in. And we use cutting edge AI to marry qualitative data with quantitative data. And we can backtest and accurately predict trends over 12 months into the future, with some reaching over 95% accuracy. But we can also help you capitalize on the opportunities faster and reduce risk, like those examples that we shared. But, because we know real time's not fast enough. And that's why we're using the latest in generative AI to rapidly summarize insights and do the heavy lifting, with data collection, with interpretation of that data for you, so you're not spending so much time trying to do that. And so I'm going to show a couple examples, and then I'll dive into the platform. So to start, I'm going to explain, a little bit about our system. So, because one of the most important aspects of our solution is, how do we uncover the trends that we ingest into the platform? And, this is the first part of our system. So we offer trend discovery in two forms. And so one is what we call our default processing approach, where all the hottest trends that we pick up, all the emerging themes, topics, and different trends that from any platform. So we look at TikTok, Google, Wikipedia, Twitter, Reddit, you name it. We syndicate those top trends, we model that, we present it to you, and so that way you can stay in the know, in on top of the pulse of the world, helping you kind of stay relevant, finding relevant opportunities to jump on without having to search for them. But then there's also this other aspect of being able to prompt the platform around topics you're interested in. So we offer what we call our strategic topic processing approach, and this is where it uses our large language model that we built in-house to scour the web, and using our data sources to more or less surface top trends for you around a prompt that you built in our platform. So for instance, if I'm interested in coffee, I can type in coffee and it'll surface the top emerging trends for you within seconds. This is actually a great example of one where we typed in Gen Alpha. Now, the reason why I typed in Gen Alpha, and I particularly like this example because, with your typical Boolean approach, you're going to be receiving, mentions of your Boolean back. Whereas, our approach here, we're taking into account context of conversations. So I type in Gen Alpha with a Boolean approach, I'm going to get mentions of Gen Alpha back. So I'm going to be seeing things like Gen Alpha versus Gen Z, and I don't care about that. What I do care about are what are the trends and themes emerging around Gen Alpha that I can research more about. So, for instance, like Gen Alpha officially joining like mainstream social media in 2023 because they turned 13 years old is actually a pretty big trend around Gen Alpha. We're starting to see some really, quite frankly, weird but also interesting trends come about from that, such as like this skibbity toilet trend. So the skibbity toilet trend is. I gotta say, just look it up. It's really weird. More or less like an animation of this guy's head's popping out of the toilet singing this catchy song. Gen Alpha loves it. But other aspects too, like global cuisine trend. So kind of like a quick nudge to that Kraft Heinz example here. Gen Alpha is starting to show diverse palettes for the types of cuisine that they're interested in. They're getting exposed to that through the content and media that they're exposed to. So, for instance, one of my business partners is, he has a 12-year-old son, loves anime, and cannot stop asking him to try ramen, to try sushi, and that sort of stuff because it's from the content he learns about. And so the kicker here is that I did not write any of these. We didn't write any of these. This actually comes straight from our generative AI. I'm going to show you here in a little bit about how this works, but this is all AI-generated content that has been brought back from our system. But one other thing too I wanted to show here that's an important part of our system is the actual predictive aspect. And so after our platform picks up on trends, it'll conduct all the modeling, do all the forecasting for you. And here's an example of one. This is actually an early example that we did around Bitcoin. So we're looking at Bitcoin web traffic from 2021 going to 2022. And what our system does is it documents examples of trends. So it looks at like the qualitative factors, anywhere from like the emotional aspects of of trends that we pull in. We define what platforms are they trending on, what where they progress to next. So for instance, like say it starts trending on Google, and then you see it transcend to TikTok or whatever it might be. We track that. We look at the cultural narrative. So is this a political narrative going into more of like an entertainment narrative? We look at all sorts of different quantitative variables, anywhere from search traffic, web traffic, engagement patterns, mention volume, that sort of thing. This all feeds into more or less a massive training database we build out that documents all these trends. And so you can see here with Bitcoin here, this orange line here represents the observed values we brought into the platform. But then we overlaid this with our prediction using this approach where we documented not just examples of Bitcoin, but we looked at things that have similar patterns, such as alternative cryptocurrencies or NFTs or other financial topics that might have similar patterns. We can use that all as training data to make really accurate forecasts. And so this one is a forecast that is upwards of 9 months out. And quite accurate, even picking up on some of those peaks and troughs, because what it's doing is it's looking at and documenting all sorts of different examples. And so this is actually really effective for, mapping out what a black swan event could look like, or looking at something that has minimal historical data and could be more of a short-term trend pattern. So we're helping companies like document what those trends could look like, helping understand whether or not this is a good narrative to continue on and jump on. So so I'm going to jump back to this example here real quick, because I want to show you starting off in our platform with what we call our Fire search capability. And so we built out more or less our own generative AI assistant that you can use anywhere in the platform. Ask it questions about any trends you're interested in. So for instance, say I'm interested in luxury travel. I just type that in and give it a second. And what it's going to come back with is top emerging trends associated with luxury travel. So here we go here. So for instance, new psychology of luxury travel, different aspects of travel agencies, international travel tips, last mile problem with that, Viking opening a 2026 ocean voyages. So you can see like different trends associated with that. You can type in anything you want here, and it'll pick up on emerging themes, topics, trends, news, whatever comes to mind for that. And we bake this generative AI into what we call our trend topic creation process. So I'm going to shift gears and kind of present this to you as if I were, if I'm Anna or something like that going into the platform. And so say I'm interested in exploring we're kind of creating what we call this trend topic, and I'm interested in exploring what are the top emerging trends that are happening in the world. I want things fed to me, so that way I get inspiration for what I want to research more about. So simply by clicking on this default processing area here, and so calling this test, by clicking on default processing, this activates a data collection engine on our end that is always on, is pulling in top emerging trends across every resource we bring in. It's updated every couple hours as well. So you're getting more or less a very, very close to real-time aspect, engine that's pulling in emerging trends, and you can break it down by any of our 40 to 50 different categories we break it down here. So say I'm interested in, like, hey, what are the top, emerging trends in food and drink? We got you covered there. We can make that happen. And all you have to do is create that trend topic, and boom, there you go. You're seeing top emerging trends with, around food and drink, with data to show for it, forecasts around all those trends. And I'll show you an example here in a second. But then there's other aspect of our engine too that we call strategic topic processing, where this is where you can say I'm Anna, and I'm very interested in understanding coffee trends or something like that. So what our platform does is it more or less uses our existing data engine, using the web, using all the resources that we have to more or less surface top emerging trends associated with your prompt that you type in here. And you can refine it a little bit more by adding keywords, phrases. So say I'm interested in espresso. I'm interested in affogato. If I'm not spelling anything wrong here. I already misspelled something, but needless to say, you can type in different keywords, phrases, and stuff like that that helps refine it. So it's not what's actually happening here is it's not finding mentions directly referencing that. It's actually taking into account the context of the keywords and phrases you type in there to make sure that trends that are pulled back, represent that. So all you have to do is click on, boom, create new trend topic, and there you go. It starts collecting data for you around that. So this is an always-on approach too. So for somebody like Anna that is trying to understand emerging trends around coffee, she can stay on top of those emerging trends without having to build new Boolean queries or adjusting her queries. It's always on. It's contextual. It's bringing in new top relevant results every single day for her. So she's always on top of it. But let's go into the dashboard real quick. So we always start off with what we call our daily trends discovery. This is actually the landing page when you log into our platform. Our objective here was to deliver immediate value for anybody that logs in. So for instance, I can see here's this trend around the functional beverage boom. So this it gives a description of what's going on here. There's gives you some categorization and top keywords that are associated with that. You can actually leverage our fire search to generate some more themes that come about from that too. But this is just kind of like in a nutshell, starting off where to start, or sorry, starting off with when you log in. But where it starts getting really interesting is when we actually dive into the actual dashboard. So I have this trend topic we call the whole shebang. This is something where we just kind of clicked on all the topics and whatnot that we were interested in, and from our default processing engine, and mapped out here in what we call our moments matrix. And so we're mapping out all the the top 20 or so different trends over a given period of time. So I think we're looking at the past few months. And so what this is doing is mapping out those trends based on how mainstream, how niche they are, or how high growth, or how stagnant they are. And you can click in on any one of these. So I see this one on ChatGPT I'm interested in. Click on that. We have a description of that that's generated by our AI, and you can dive into that trend in more detail here through what we call our Explorer dashboard. So, and that Explorer dashboard more or less gives you a detailed overview of all the different themes and emerging areas within ChatGPT that, because I selected ChatGPT here, so it's giving me all the details about this trend, the sentiment over time. What are some of the different categories, cultural categories that are breaking out from that? You can actually see ChatGPT is quite diverse. There's a lot of computer and data sciences, gaming, movies and theater, freelancing, employment are some of the top topics and themes coming from that. And then we bring it down here with what we call our theme explorer, where you can actually click in on any emerging theme associated with that trend to explore more detail. So for instance, I see this one on AI and relationship communication. I can click in on that. It gives me a summary of different conversations and threads that come about from that. So we can click on Reddit, explore some of the conversations that are happening there. But the overview of this conversation around AI and relationship communication is that, so like for instance, the summary of the given text here is that the author and their partner has been using ChatGPT to communicate and apologize in their relationship. And some people view this as helpful for effective communication, while others see it as insincere or lazy. And so you're able to see kind of like the nuances on how ChatGPT is being leveraged, and more or less how this is impacting culture, in its association with ChatGPT. So let's pull up like another example. I was looking at Paul World earlier too, so like clicking on that one. This one was a trend that was picked up just recently too from that. But actually here, since we're running a little bit slow on time, I'm just going to jump to our next part of the dashboard. So I'm going to make this last month. So this is the last piece of our, the last dashboard in our page in our dashboard. We call this our predictions page. And so you can see like how the interest pattern for any topic that comes in our platform plays out. So we're seeing Paul World, which is a very seemingly similar Japanese game to Pokemon. And so there's been a lot of divisive conversation about those similarities there that you can explore. We made this so that way you can see the forecast for all the general interest, but you can see like for social volumes, you can see for web traffic, and more or less a variety of different individual platforms as well. You can see like the different, you can see how it's how the trend pattern is built up over time. You can see there's like not really any data found, prior to the past couple of weeks, because it was just recently introduced, and so you start seeing it significantly trending on these platforms. But the initial inflection point here started trending in Google, and so you can kind of start to see like here's where that initial inflection point for that trend started there. We also offer a couple different reporting options where you can build and manage custom reports, where you can have any recipient receive a daily, weekly, monthly digest of all these top emerging trends. So a lot of our customers like to set these up to more or less divvy out to all sorts of brand managers, different teams in innovation, market research, so that way they're on a regular cadence to get incoming trend patterns and whatnot that are coming from more or less all of our data sources here. But without further ado, I'm going to pause right there, bring it back to our slides, and yeah, I'm going to open up for questions. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Just as a reminder to our audience, if you have any questions, make sure to drop them in that Q&A box. But to kick things off, so for a social intelligence team, where would you say Nichefire fits best?
Yeah. So one thing we always say is that we're not here to replace social listening or like do anything like that. We're actually a really great complement to social listening. A lot of the customers that we work with us, or that work with us, I should say, typically see us as kind of like that, I guess, first line of defense or offense or whatever might make sense to, be the ones to pick up on, those emerging themes, trends, opportunities that they can then take the rest of the way with their audience research, with their social listening monitoring, that sort of thing. And so we're actually a really great complement to help kind of inform the kind of research these teams can do. And so that's at least how we see, that's at least how we've seen ourselves fit in with these social listening stacks that a lot of companies are building out.
That's awesome. Perfect for the theme of today's tech showcase. So what's the importance of looking at data outside of social data?
Well, the one thing I always say is, if you're looking at social data and looking at that alone, it's something that you're not getting a full picture, full picture from that too. So, there's a lot of traditional research and whatnot too that heavily leverage, surveys and whatnot too. That kind of data is actually really, really, really compatible with social data. But we take this kind of insight into our own platform, by offering things like Google web traffic, news, stuff like that, different areas in where consumers are either influenced or in which consumers are influencing. So that way we can understand more or less holistically how the whole environment of the consumer works. And so this helps us really understand how cultural trends develop. And so that's how we're able within our platform to pick up on these themes and topics and stuff like that really effectively, is because we're, using alternative data sources from not just from social, but from looking at search, from looking at the patterns of web traffic, from looking at how news impacts opinions, eventually looking at like podcast data and stuff like that, to explore holistically how that environment is impacting different channels.
Awesome. Thank you. Just as a reminder to everyone, this session will be available on demand to watch back on the Green Book website. Thank you so much, Michael, for being here. And for our attendees, thank you. And we'll see you over in the next session.
Thank you so much.